the public spat between Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire has gotten even nastier. Oh, and I'm here for it. So let them fight. Let them fight. Now, on Thursday, Steven Crowder played a secret recording of his contract negotiations with Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring. Again, Jeremy Boring. Okay. Now, look, he was offering Crowder $50 million or $12.5 million a year to Crowder. And by the way, his team, he's got like 6-7 employees. $12.5 million. That's amazing. That's still a ton of money for a contract. And Crowder said, nope. Now, he's going around and he's pretending that he's trying to defend the little guy, protect the little guy. Oh, I just really care about, fighting against the censorships and, against the big tech. That's what I'm fighting. And I'm looking out for the younger creators. That's what I'm doing. I don't believe it at all. Nonetheless, on Thursday, he played this secret recording. Take a listen.
And these people know and acknowledge exactly what's being done to the next generation of creators.
Bench talent, young talent, they don't get deals like this.
So they don't get deals that...
They can be wage slaves for a little bit, come over and make a salary and grow their brand.
That you then own.
Well, I own parts of it. I don't own it. They can, when their contract's up, they can still go out and they'll still be famous. They can keep doing their shows, so go do a show somewhere else. They'll be in a far, far, far better place. You helped make them.
No, not long as this contract. This contract owns it in perpetuity even after the contract. You're paying a lease but getting ownership. That's what this contract reads.
On the content that we paid to produce, yes.
Wage slave. You get to be a wage slave. See, I've got it recorded. I've got it on tape. I've got it on Talkboy. Okay. Well, look at Home Alone. Yep. Look at that. Wait, he said wage slave. Yeah. Are we at all surprised that that's the kind of phrasing that CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies would say, especially on the right wing? Really? Okay, but anyway, look, the funniest thing about this is Steven Crowder, ironically, is being mad at capitalism. That's literally all it is. It's like, oh, can you believe this contract? Can you believe it? That I'm not getting 100% of everything that I put in? And then also get to take 100% even when I get demonetized because of the racist, homophobic, or transphobic content that I put out? I mean, I don't understand. This is terrible. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know he's mad at capitalism. I mean, do you know how exploitative these contracts can be? Yeah, dude. Yeah, we do. Yes. And look, by the way, Steven Crowder's contract isn't. Again, $50 million a year. And it wasn't even a contract offer, by the way. It was an initial. It was negotiable. But look, at least $50 million a year. I'm sorry, for 4 years. 12.5 a year. Full creative control. Now, there are the stipulations in there. Now, those stipulations, again, make sense when you're giving Steven Crowder full creative control. Because you know he's going to drop some transphobic shit or some racist shit. Because that's what Steven Crowder does. And by the way, that's why his audience loves him. That's why he's got 6 million subscribers. People eat it up. They love it. And by the way, Daily Wire's like, we love it too. We know our audience eats this shit up. That's why we're willing to pay you $50 million over 4 years. That is a gigantic investment into this company, into Steven Crowder himself. I mean, look, the other thing that's interesting here is Look at all the money they have in the right wing. Look at all. I am sitting here with $50 worth of sound panels, foam core paper, and cheap lights. So, I mean, come on. Now, the right wing, you got to look. When you watch right wing content, you know it's very well produced. They've got super slick sets. They've got wonderful graphics. Very, very well produced content. Now, again, it's too bad everything they say is utter trash, but that trash has a purpose. That purpose is to defend the billionaire class, who ends up, funding them. But anyway, let's see. I have a video here, by the way, of Jeremy Boring pointing out how Steven Crowder is not really somebody who has been independent. In fact, Steven Crowder has been backed by billionaires pretty much his entire career.
Big tech is in bed with Big Con. The people.
But Steven, as much or more than any of them, a very independent voice. But he's not exactly a self-made man. That's not true. He was paid by PJTV when I met him, which was owned by a billionaire at the time. Then he was paid by CRTV for a number of years, which was owned by a billionaire at the time. Then he was paid by The Blaze, which was subsidized by a billionaire, until Tyler Carden, one of the real genius businessmen in our movement, turned the company around and made it profitable. During all of that time, Steven drove a ton of revenue. He's incredibly valuable. I'm not suggesting that he wasn't driving value. He was. I'm only saying he didn't have to build all of that. He didn't have to think about it. And he didn't necessarily have to be profitable. And he doesn't know for a fact that he was profitable because, as he has said very publicly, all those companies, none of them really shared all the information about what was happening with them. So Steven feels very certain that his show was always profitable, but he doesn't know that his show was profitable. And even if it was, what became of that profit? Most of that profit almost certainly was reinvested into growing the infrastructure and growing the technology and growing the marketing and growing the compliance. That's how business works.
I mean, all that's true. Again, as I mentioned before, going back to that point, right-wing content is very, very highly produced. You know where the money is. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't leftist streamers or lefty streamers that have money. Again, Hassan Piker's a pretty good example of that. And then you also have, like ContraPoints. You have people on the left that do have money and can afford, nice sets. That's not really a thing as much, though, on the left as it is on the right. So, that said, Boring decided to hit back at Crowder on Twitter as well. So, he said this, quote, "I would play the part of that call where we talked about our kids, Christmas, and him buying baby formula for his brother's children, but I wouldn't even know how to secretly record my phone calls with my friends." Recording a phone call with your friend, kind of a dick move. I'm just going to say it. Total dick move. And by the way, this is a starting point for the negotiation. As Boring pointed out, hey, this was a start. You could have, yes, you could have made a counter offer. You could have asked for more pay or better terms. Just if you had asked, we would have negotiated. That's what we do. Instead, Steven Crowder threw it back in their face and then came out publicly instead of dealing with it, behind the scenes, and called them Big Con. Now, of course, ironically, they're all a big con. There's nobody in the story that isn't a big con. But just it's not the way that Crowder says. Specifically, Crowder claims that they're working with big tech in order to censor conservatives. No, in reality, they're putting content on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify because that's where the audience is. They're not like in an alliance with big tech. They're not sitting there with Zuckerberg in the room. You know, saying, "Oh, you must silence Steven Crowder." No, again, Daily. You think the Daily Wire likes the rules on Facebook, YouTube, you know, and all these different platforms? No, of course not. They talk about it all the time. Big tech censorship, big tech censorship, big tech censors me. Oh, they're censoring the Daily Wire. They're censoring Matt Walsh. They're censoring all of us. It's not like they like these platforms. Look, they're lefties, myself included, that have issues with these platforms. I mean, I've had content demonetized. Whenever I talk about reproductive rights, or when a right-winger, you know, does violence, and I cover it, those videos get demonetized. I don't see ad revenue from that. And by the way, they're also deprioritized in the algorithms, as well as other videos that I have. So those are serious issues. And again, not only that, but these companies are gigantic and not very transparent in their decisions. They also don't communicate at all. There's no communication. Again, issues for creators, right? But at the end of the day, we all have to post where the people are. And that's it. And by the way, if you get demonetized on those platforms, going back to the Steven Crowder's, like, oh, these stipulations, look at how terrible they are. Well, it wouldn't make sense for the Daily Wire, in this case, or for any company to keep paying someone if they're not bringing in any revenue for their channel. It wouldn't make any sense, right? And then he said in his previous video, could you imagine getting hit by a car and going into work and losing $100,000 a day? No, bitch, I don't have $100,000. I don't have $100,000 to lose. Nobody else does either. Very, very few people. I mean, you're sitting there claiming that, I'm a man of the people. You will all understand. No, we don't. We don't have that money. And by the way, we do also lose money when we can't work. I know it's a shock to you, but this happens to everyday people all the time. On top of that, by the way, a lot of Americans, regular people, we don't have health insurance. Either because we can't afford it, we can't afford the premiums or the copays, deductibles. Don't have paid sick leave. It's like he just found out that capitalism is A, exploitative, and B, contracts are bad sometimes, and that working conditions can be pretty terrible. He just found that out, but only when it allegedly applies to him. But oh my God, I can't believe how exploitative some of these contracts are. When again, it's really a pretty good contract. You know how many people would be like, oh, $12.5 million a year? Sign me up. Sign me up. There are people that will cut off fingers to get $50 million. So, and by the way, for full creative control of your content, that's a sweet deal. But again, his entire issue here, ironically, is capitalism, but he doesn't get it. Maybe it's just a bit, because there's no way in hell that he actually cares about the average person. He can't even relate to the average person in any of his examples. That said, there's more response to this. So we'll go to Candace Owens. So first, Candace Owens, basically, on her show, called him a bitch. Again, I'm not a fan of Candace Owens, but that shit's funny. And she continued going after him on Tim Pool's show. Take a look.
please use your common sense. It's not even because I work for Daily Wire. It is because he personally he's lying, and he insulted me. And during his lying campaign, he's still lying. He even said something in this video where he's like, now they're sending out their, no. You took, if you're gonna aim and you're gonna hit somebody with shrapnel and it's gonna be me, you better aim correctly, because I don't like shit like this, okay? I have been quiet. I know Steven Crowder treats people like absolute trash. It's a known thing in the conservative movement. Ask anybody that works at the Blaze, any person who's ever had a show on the Blaze, how Steven Crowder treats people. By the way, you want to talk about contract negotiations? Why doesn't somebody reach out to Not Gay Jared, right, who used to be with Steven Crowder, and figure out why he can't speak? Why doesn't Steven Crowder release Not Gay Jared from his NDA? I don't like shit like this, is all I'm saying. I don't like it.
Let him fight. Ooh, let him fight. I'm sorry, but I sit there, I'm enjoying this. Too much. Now, look, she's not the only one who went off. And by the way, it seems like Candace Owens is taking that very, very personally. All right. Good stuff. Now, Ben Shapiro also took it a little personally. And he responded on Twitter to Crowder. He said this: "It's nasty to attack my company and Daily Wire Plus host as Big Con by lying about the meaning of a non-binding term sheet. It's despicable to plan weeks in advance to attack my best friend and your friend by setting up and secretly taping a phone call, all to grow your email list." So look, that email list is like the Mug Club or whatever. Okay. And look, on all these recent, shows, Steven Crowder went through this, and he's like, Mug Club, you got to sign up for Mug Club. You know why? Because he gets the money from that. That's a direct membership to Steven Crowder. It goes all into his pocket, as opposed to any sort of contract where he gets, yes, a certain amount of money. And then, of course, the company also shares revenue as well. That's generally how it works. So now, here's the other thing, right? When it comes to friends, I've kind of learned in this career that friends are few and far between. You don't really want to make friends in this avenue, in this arena. That said, I've made a few, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good people, right? And when you get to a certain point, there are people that inevitably want to use you, and those if you're a bad person, you would want to use. It's really nasty in media, just like it is in politics. Now, look, I'm not at that point. I'm never going to be at that point. I'm not interested in using other people. But I, of course, am always careful about people that might want to, if I ever get to a large enough point, to be used. I think it is very gross. And by the way, this kind of thing does happen on the left. A great example of this is Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin went through and basically used TYT to springboard himself, and then to go over to right-wing media. Specifically, saying that that he was friends with Anna Kasparian and Jane Guger. They play basketball together, and the whole time he was pretending to be their friends in order to catapult his career and make more money. And again, that's not the only example we've seen. So again, when it comes to so-called friends, again, Steven Crowder, ironically, is doing to the Daily Wire, or pretty close to what Dave Rubin did to TYT. So I think that is very, an apt comparison, a very apt comparison to that. That's what's going on. Look, and by the way, Steven Crowder, I have no doubt that Candace Owens was being true, correct when she was saying, ask people who worked at the Blaze how Steven Crowder treats people. There are stories, lots of stories, about Steven Crowder being an absolute dickhead behind the scenes. And of course, we see how he is on the screen too. He's an absolute dickhead. And look, the reason, of course, is that he wants to say that he is the only true conservative. That he is the only one that's fighting against big tech censorship. Because he's going to be a competitor to Daily Wire. He's building his own network. And he wants people to come over to him, to watch him, to support him. He wants to be the boot. So now Shapiro had some more tweets. He said, once more, if you actually cared about the supposedly horrific non-binding first offer term sheet offering $50 million over 4 years, Jeremy reads it line by line and he links that video. It's quite simple. If your show loses money, you lose money. That is how capitalism works. Yeah, exactly. Again, the irony is, Steven Crowder, apparently against capitalism. I thought he lived like a capitalist every single day. Apparently not. He just figured out how it works. Oh my God, did you know? Did you know that capitalism is like this? Yes. Yes, we did. And by the way, Ben Shapiro continues by saying, you know who knows this, Steven Crowder. That's why he has a piss off YouTube segment in which he deliberately does not say things that will get him kicked off YouTube, because he's had it happen before, and directs people behind his paywall. Shapiro added, quote, he must be a show for YouTube or something. Ooh. Again, this keeps getting better and better, nastier and nastier. I love it. Again, let him fight. Let him fight.